Hey, everybody, it's Mike from MikeLadano.com, and I'm here with my good friend Uncle Meat, who last Friday, September the 16th, had the opportunity to see the new documentary film by Marco Doria of the Contrarians. The film is called Mystique, Standing on the Firing Line, and it's a documentary about a 80s Canadian metal band that you probably haven't heard of. Marco was there, and Martin Popoff was at the premiere introducing him. And the Meat Man is here with us tonight to tell us a quick synopsis of what the movie is about and his feelings about it. Over to you, Uncle Meat.
Yes, I must say it was a pleasure to go to what I believe is my first ever movie premiere. I went there with a La Brain Train follower, Frank Toms, and we ended up going to the Westdale Theater in Hamilton for this. For Standing on the Firing Line, which was a passion project of Marco's, because his uncle Ray Doria was the vocalist in a band called Mystique, and I'm sure he was always curious, and his curiosity lent to him doing a lot of work. He had some help from Nick L. Woodside and Aaron LaBelle, Carl Brisson, and Candy Bears. Basically, this movie is a synopsis of the career of a band called Mystique that was from Hamilton in the early to mid 80s. And there was a lot going on, personnel changes. Pardon the pun, there is a lot of mystique to this band, and I'm sure that pun gets used a lot. I very much enjoyed the movie. The movie was 2 hours and 10 minutes long. It was not a short thing, and I really enjoyed that it was that. It was very involved. There were no shortcuts taken, and I actually loved the movie, and it was a great experience to be at.
If I may make a point here, I've seen a lot of music documentaries over the year. Most of them are under 2 hours. And we're talking about big bands like Lemmy or Anvil, with bands with extensive discographies. So for Mystique to have a 2 hour, 10-minute documentary film, it must be very in depth.
Well, I look at it like, everybody knows about Lemmy. Everybody knows about whoever, the documentary is. This was a learning experience. And I didn't find any slow moments in it. From speaking to Marco, like, he probably could have made a 4 or 5 hour movie, because this is a passion project of his, and it was probably very tough for him to edit. But the runtime was great, and the content was great, and I really loved the movie.
So, Marco, when this does come out on DVD, let's get those deleted scenes, shall we? So you mentioned you went with our friend Frank Toms. You mentioned Martin was there. I understand there were a lot of people there that the readers might know. Somebody from Forgotten Rebels, and one of my personal idols, Drew Masters from Meat Magazine.
Yes. I didn't even know that Drew Masters was there. It was pretty amazing to see that there was an impact that this band had. A pretty good turnout. I know they sold over 150 tickets. There's a lot of people there. A lot of people that really cared about this project. You could really feel in the crowd that this band meant a lot to a lot of people, and it was one of the neat things about being at this premiere. It was an emotional victory for a lot of people to be there, and to experience that with them was absolutely wonderful.
Let me ask you this. Did it feel like you were going to see a movie that night, or did it feel like something else?
That's an interesting question. In ways, it did feel like more. And it's funny that you said about the DVD thing, because it turned out that right behind me and Frank Toms were members of the band, and they were talking a lot during the movie, kind of reacting to what they were seeing. And it was almost like me and Frank were getting like DVD commentary behind us.
You got bonus tracks. You got bonus tracks.
Yes, it did add to how wonderful the experience was, actually.
So you're a big music documentary aficionado. I'm a big fan as well. We've both seen every music documentary. You've seen a lot more than me. You're constantly telling me to watch stuff on Netflix, but that's aside from this point. How was this particular movie set up in comparison to other films? Was it all chronological, or what was the deal there?
It was actually perfectly set up in the way that, in basically what I enjoy about music docs. The interviews were the heart of the film. It was apparent that the people interviewed were very passionate, about the band Mystique and the people involved in it. I really enjoyed that aspect of it. Very well done.
Well, that's probably a good place to play our first clip. This is an interview, or at least it contains an interview with Lee Gazzaro, and they're talking about band practice. So let's watch this clip.
They were probably practicing 3 times a week, on a pretty regular basis.
Especially during the Mystique years, they really challenged me to get better. But for those years, I would say about 2 to 3 hours a day, I would be practicing.
If it was late at night and the studios closed and they were practicing, a lot of times I'd be up there running the board. And then once you got the board set up, you just let them play. So they were one of the few bands that I would stand and watch play because they were good, and that's how you can tell when you start seeing people like that. So these guys were practicing even if they had no gigs, they were, and that's kind of like the school I came from. We practiced and practiced and practiced. It wasn't a chore. And those guys were one of the few bands that were willing to do that.
Yeah, that's a great clip there. That talks a lot about the earliest incarnation of Mystique, where it was a guy named Vic Barrero on keyboards, Mark Arbor on bass. Of course, it was John Davies on drums and Ray Doria singing. And there was a guitar player there named Dave Dragos, who they mentioned in the film actually won second place in some worldwide guitarist competition in Canada.
Wow.
And it was
worldwide guitarist competition in Canada.
Well, okay, I think I just said that wrong. It can't be worldwide in Canada. It was second in Canada. Sorry about that.
That's pretty cool. Lots of lineup changes over the years.
Yes, and I will get to that. That is definitely a big part of this movie. Is a lot of personnel changes.
So you mentioned lineup changes, and we're looking at this really cool cassette cover for I Am the King. And I realize that there is an image change here, but honestly, if you looked at that picture, I'd wonder if it was the same band. It doesn't even look like it's all the same guys.
Well, actually, there was a major shift, not only in the look, but in the personnel. Basically, the heart of the band is and always was Ray Doria on vocals and John on drums. And basically, what had happened was some French guitarist named Eric Nicholas. He, for some reason, was in Canada, and he saw them. He had seen the band Mystique play a show on the rooftop of Jackson Square, and somehow through that, basically Eric and I believe a bass player named Les Wheeler ended up joining a Mystique, and they ended up going to France to record their the I Am the King album. Like, there is this picture here.
Zoom in on that.
And that is, I'm trying to get, is that right?
There we go. Yeah.
That is, on the left is Ray, which is Marco's uncle, and on the right is John, the drummer.
And they're clearly in Paris.
And yes, like I guess Elektra paid for everyone's flight to go there, and I mean, it was a big deal. And there was a shift in direction there. And like I mentioned earlier about the first guitar player was great. Well, the Eric guy was clearly great too. And they definitely started a new look and sound.
Yeah.
And especially a new look, which I believe leads into another clip.
It does. This clip features Martin Popoff, and it's actually, just full disclosure here, this is my favorite clip, and it has some of my favorite Martin Popoff dialogue of all time. So please enjoy this clip from Mystique standing on the firing line.
So I picked up the poster, and as I was leaving, I saw a couple of young girls coming in, and they were picking up the poster and picking up the tape. So yeah, people were definitely buying their merchandise back in those days.
They look perfect, and the outfits are just, I mean, this looks like basically the David Lee Roth band in 1986 or 1988, you know, the explosion in the costume factory look, right?
They had the look. They knew how to market themselves, right? But at the same time, once those teenage girls that were listening to that, they weren't turned off by the fact that they were playing like heavy progressive music.
Absolutely 100% as pure a hair metal look as you could possibly get. There's not a stitch of jeans here. There's not a stitch of anything that is from the 70s. It's a perfect look. I would say this is so extreme that the only two bands I would compare it to are the David Lee Roth Band, 1986, with Steve Vai in it and Greg Bissonette and Billy Sheehan and David Lee Roth. The other band that went this far would be Kiss at the time. So I would say Mystique, Kiss, and the David Lee Roth Band are all tied for first place as the most hair metal bands I've ever seen.
So we've gone over a bit of the movie already, but do you have any specific memorable parts that you wanted to spotlight?
Yeah, there are a few. One of the things I'd like to mention is that there seemed to be, in the early days, a lot of Lord of the Rings imagery. Like Gandalf in the Ring. They certainly knew what they were doing, as in like trying to promote the band. Also, there's a clip in there that where Martin is talking about two ballads on the album. One is called Memories, and the other is called Standing on the Firing Line. Standing on the Firing Line, which we know that Martin is the one who suggested that as being a title. And it actually works very well as a title, because if you listen to that ballad, it is very much an original thing. It does not follow the trope of the rock power ballad thing. That song is a 4-minute song. It starts at the beginning like a ballad. It ends like a ballad. There is no big cannon shot snare moment and glory moment. Martin being him, he talks a lot like about those two songs and how impressive that is. And I found that to be a good part. And also, a person that was involved in the band, Ted, I believe his last name was Weirnos, something like that. He was the guy who produced the Black Rider album. And he basically funded them and believed in them. And at some point, this man had passed away. And there was a lot of emotion in the theater when they talked about it. And that guy's family was there, and I think that they were really appreciative of that guy being known and acknowledged in the film.
Yeah.
So that definitely that was a powerful moment of the film.
So in your notes that you sent me, there was something here about a glory note. What exactly is a glory note, and how does it relate to this film about Mystique?
Well, that's interesting. It definitely is perfectly noted as a glory note. It's not a slam glory note, because I know you're a fan of Ray's previous band. It is basically, for me, my favorite clip of the movie. There was a reaction to the clip that was pretty memorable, and we were lucky enough to get an exclusive clip from Marco, the Contrarian, and I was very glad to be able to include that in this.
Let's see it.
I'm the king. Memory for recording was Ray holding that note. It just went on forever and kept going and going. And we're sitting here watching him. And me and Eric looked at each other and went, oh my God, and he just kept going. That's Ray. That's not effects.
8 bars or 12, I don't know, it was long. It's freaking long. But I used to practice a lot of breathing exercises. I did a lot of that. I didn't stop when I went to France. Live, I cut, I take a quick breath and do the whole note. But on the recording, it's right from the minute I start talking, can I be the king? And it's all the same breath, that whole note, everything. I remember doing it, looking at the show room, and everybody's looking, and they're like, oh my God, and they're freaking out because I'm still going. I actually have a live recording of me doing I Am the King, and I hold the note, same way.
But only in my world can I be the king.
Wow, that's insane.
Yeah, I love that part, and I loved it in the theater. And I had mentioned to you earlier how amazing it was for the ovation that happened during that clip. Like I likened it to back when I was 13 years old. Seeing the movie Return of the Jedi, and every time that a new character came on screen, it was like this huge ovation. It doesn't happen much in a movie theater, but it happened right in the theater when that note ended. It was pretty wild, and we did get a chance to see Marco's uncle, their Ray Doria, who is an incredible singer and a super nice guy. I got a chance to speak to him when the movie was over, and I got a chance to go up to him and say this, and I'll never forget this. I had said to him, I've been singing for over 30 years in some capacity, and at best I might have had a revolver in my pocket at times, but you, sir, were brandishing a fucking Uzi, because what a voice. The range is awesome, the vibrato is awesome, the sustain is awesome. It just seeing that part again kind of gave me some goosebumps just seeing it again. So that's my personal favorite part of the movie.
So tell me about this interesting cover that they did of Stone Cold Crazy by Queen.
Yes, I was surprised to have that come up in the movie, and I listened to it with Frank on the way home, and it's a great cover. And we're talking about what 1985 or 86. Covers had become a sexy thing much later. I mean, Metallica covered a Stone Cold Crazy,
1990, 5 years later.
There you go. So the degree of difficulty of playing Queen songs, we all know, they had to be a great band all around to pull that off, and they did a great cover.
That's awesome. But how did the band eventually come to an end?
Well, that actually, is something that is pretty prominent in the movie. And let's just say too many cooks in the kitchen, too many changes. It just seemed to me like the band was always Ray and John, the singer and the drummer. But there's a lot of revolving doors there that just kept changing. And I also think that their direction changed a lot more than what they really wanted it to. I think at times it just became, it almost seemed to me it became more about the image than it did about the amazing music. I could be wrong there, but it was just time for that band to cease being, and it's really too bad that it didn't go on longer.
The movie or the band?
Both, really, because but especially the band. Yeah.
Well, can you tell us a final rating, sum up the movie? Anything else you want to say?
Okay. Well, I will say that another great part of this movie, and it's the only time you actually hear Marco's voice in the movie, is that in the ending credits, the whole ending credits, it's people talking about hair. And he asked about 4 or 5, maybe 6 different people the same question: who had the best hair in Mystique? And to a man, every single person said, "Oh, I did." It's me, except for one guy, Carl, who couldn't say that because he was balding or whatever. But everyone else, oh yeah, I had the best hair, and I just found that to be just a great way to sum up the movie, and like just a fun way to end it. If I had to give it a rating, I'll just give it 9 out of 10. Just to make sure that it's properly praised, and I hope people, when they get a chance to see this movie, see it and enjoy it. I think people from Hamilton and area will love it, but anyone else who loves music documentaries will love it as well.
I can't wait to see it. Well, thank you so much for coming by and virtually and doing this review. And I can't wait to see this film. Marco, it sounds like you've done an incredible job. Thank you so much for the use of your clips, and can't wait to see and hear more about Mystique.
Rock.